Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special episode of the Real Forno Show. We've got some real sickos in here tonight, and we are going to do a full first-round mock draft. I have three brilliant gentlemen, and one of them cannot spell worth a damn joining me. But luckily, we're just talking, so spelling doesn't matter. Welcome to the Real Forno Show.
Welcome to the Real Forno Show. Managing editor of the USA Today's Vikings Wire. Betting and college football analysis for the Fantasy Points website. Publisher of Substack Run and Shooter. Host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, as well as a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
You are looking live. Welcome to a special edition of the Real Forno Show. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. And with me, we've got three smart, sicko gentlemen. Just to my left, Alex Katson, columnist at Chargers Wire and the Sultan of Spreadsheets. To his left, AJ Schulte of RPM Data, who is the offensive line aficionado, who I know he and Dave will get along really well. And just to his left is Vikings Wire columnist Kevin Fielder, the man who cannot spell but knows how to transition Kaliza Kansky to edge. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Oh, well,
So it took, 2 minutes to mention that I can't spell?
Not even.
Oh,
not even. That was right off the bat. Like,
Also,
that's
for the
your
record,
defining personality trait.
for the record, my last name is
That's all I've
pronounced Katson. That's no one has gotten it right on a single show I've done this year.
Wait. I did say Katson, right?
No, you said Katson.
You said Caston. Like,
oh my gosh.
French.
Katson.
I know it's Katson. I'm not an idiot. What the oh, we're off to a great start, and as always, in the bottom right corner is producer Dave. Dave, I hate to break it to you, but I'm using Brave today, and it's still blurry. So apparently, it's just a me thing. So I'm gonna have to run the damn YouTube video live and try and keep track in my head canon. So, gentlemen, we're here today to do a first round mock. I have the first pick. AJ picks second. Katson picks third, and Kevin picks fourth. Structured this way, so Kevin and I, being writers for the Minnesota Vikings, don't pick for the Vikings. We want an outsider's opinion, and I wanted Katson to cry when I picked for the Chargers. So we're gonna have some fun. Dave, let's fire it up.
Let's fire it up. Are you ready to mock?
Always.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Always mocking.
Kevin won't be ready until we
about
get
the
to
draft.
pick 40.
Welcome to the Real Forno Show's Mock Draft Mondays. Who will the Vikings pick, and who's your favorite choice?
All right. This is going to be fun. We are going to pick all 32 picks, and we already have
technical problems because the Draft Network mock machine is not working.
I promise I didn't sabotage this. Let's be clear.
This is Kevin's fault. Blame Kevin.
I'm blaming it on Kevin.
Off to PFF.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just pull up a simulator that'll work. It worked for us last week. It worked for us the week before. It worked for me this morning. But apparently,
It's Kevin's fault.
It's my fault. Let's be clear.
It is Kevin's fault. We are going to be using the PFF simulator.
Yeah, no, they knew I was going to show up, and so they just knew that they were.
Gentlemen, let's go around the horn while Dave gets this all set up because we had to make a change on the fly. AJ, I'll start with you. What are your overall thoughts on this draft class?
Oh, It is rough. We'll just put it lightly. I've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of scouts. The first round grades just across the board that are starting to get finalized this week are slim, very few and far between. I kind of expect we'll see a huge run on the premium positions because of that. So you're going to see a lot of corners, a lot of tackles, a lot of edge guys go probably a little bit earlier than mocks, and then the skill position talent just it's the start of day 2 just goes nuts.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. This is a very weird draft class because I don't have anybody with a blue chip grade where I consider that above 90. My highest rated player is Jalen Carter, and he's at 88.7. I just, even how much I love Carter, I don't think there's a real blue chip guy in this class. But the quarterbacks, if you hit on one of those, they're blue chip automatically, just by default. Kevin, how about you?
I think it's concerning when I'm out here, like, I don't know how to say this, advocating to switch arguably the best interior defensive line prospect to edge, but this class is kind of bad, like top to bottom. There are guys I like, but I don't love this class in any way.
Yeah. Katson, how about you?
I think that this class is defined by the fact that everyone in it is a huge outlier for some reason or another. You have guys like Kevin is talking about, Kalijah Kancey, who is like the smallest defensive tackle of all time, and like I think there's like 8 of the smallest 10 linebackers as far as like hand or arm size or something goes of all time, and like even the quarterbacks are tiny. Like Bryce Young is tiny, Jake Haener is tiny. Anthony Richardson is an outlier in the opposite direction, but everyone is an outlier. It makes the draft bad because there's too much. There's too many different things to have to worry about in terms of like how things are going to translate, either from a super freak athlete who is not necessarily great at football yet, or a guy who's great at football but is tiny man.
Yeah.
So it's hard to navigate, I think, for sure.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
say it's incredibly concerning that quarterback 4 in this class is Will Levis, and he drinks mayo with his coffee. So there's no redeeming qualities to this
Only
draft,
sometimes,
like top
allegedly.
to bottom.
The draft. This draft class is a problem when we're 2 weeks from the draft, and the biggest topic is Will Levis too shredded to play quarterback in the NFL? Like, there's nothing else to talk about. Like, nobody cares, right? All the running backs are trash. We're not drafting any of them, right? Bijan, go away. Is he too shredded to play? That's the main topic of focus. Like, it's just. I'm wanting this to be done with. The draft discourse right now is something else.
I'll say this before we jump in, because we got to get going on this mock. I just finished evaluating Dalton Kincaid, and he barely got a second round grade for me because he has the physicality of Gumby. I don't see what people like Daniel Jeremiah are seeing. Yeah, the dude's 24. Like, I'm not a breakout age snob, but when you're breaking out at age 23 in the Pac-12 against some pretty bad defenses, I have a lot of questions.
Hey.
And he didn't do a great job answering. Look, Washington has a good defense. Utah has a good defense.
No, they don't.
Washington's defense is not good.
They don't.
Well, they used to be. All right. Let's have some fun mocking, because there's going to be some interesting picks here in this draft. Dave, let's fire it up.
How many rounds?
Just one. We're just going to do the first
7.
31 picks.
All seven. We're going to be here for 4 hours.
Listen,
also,
we could do it.
We've been mocking Kevin the whole time.
We at a certain point, we'll just ask Kevin to fill time. We'll just ask Kevin to spell a random prospect's name just off of hearing it, see if he gets it.
Adetomiwa Adebayo.
Oh, that would be rough.
Listen, I could give you an easy one. Clark Phillips, but you'd still get it wrong.
You put the wrong amount of L's.
All right. I have the first overall pick. Yeah, I have the first overall pick, and honestly, for the Carolina Panthers, in my opinion, there's two options. It's either C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson because I
Jake
struggle
Hader.
with Bryce Young. Oh, I love Jake Hader. He's our king, but no. I struggle with Bryce Young because of his size, and even though he has ways to maneuver around it, I don't want to take that kind of outlier when I have very comparable prospects on the board. And quite frankly, even though it's a close race between the top three, Bryce Young's my quarterback 3, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I love Richardson's upsides, but I cannot get over how crisp and clean CJ Stroud is throwing the football. He can make throws to all levels of the field. He is comfortable doing literally everything and can do almost everything at a high level. Even though he's safe, I still think the ceiling is really high. I'm taking CJ Stroud for Carolina at number 1.
Good pick. Good.
You can make the argument for Richardson because of that insane upside, and he's got a baseline with his rushing ability, and he's already so clean as far as how he maneuvers the pocket and his poise. But Stroud's too good. He's my number 2 player in this class.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now where I don't know if you guys saw it come out today, but Bryce Young is now the betting odds-on favorite to be the first overall pick.
Of course he is.
I don't know how much I necessarily buy that, but that segues in nicely to me picking second overall here for the Houston Texans. It's Bryce Young. The size is a concern, sure, but when you look at how they're wanting to play offense, get some little pick and shoot kind of concepts, work on the Shanahan playbook, like it is a size and short quarterbacks are starting to die a little bit. Yeah, if there's an outlier to that trend, it would be Bryce Young, and so I'm comfortable taking him.
Speaking of short quarterbacks,
yeah, Arizona Cardinals. Here we go.
Oh, true. Yeah,
Alex,
that's me.
that's you.
Yeah. Listen. So here's the thing. The Cardinals are, for my money, one of the most incompetent organizations of all time. There's a lot of smoke that they have Tyree Wilson graded the same as Will Anderson, which is not how I would grade them. The thing
I got Wilson higher, and I'm okay with
that. Yeah, we don't need to talk about this.
You're wrong.
The thing is, I think at this point, Arizona is going to be bullied by someone in that building. I don't know who exactly it's going to be, but I think eventually they will be bullied into taking Anderson, who has been, was the number 1 player coming into the season, has been the number 1 player pretty much throughout the season, and pretty much is only not the number 1 overall player because Alabama decided to play him at 5 tech for some reason for half the season, and also
not just 5 tech,
4i.
exist.
Yeah, 4i also. Yeah, who knows? Anyway, I think that eventually the Cardinals will do the sensible thing and take Anderson because they have no one that can rush the passer that I can think of off the top of my head, except San Diego State legend Cameron Thomas.
Yeah, I was about to say, and respect Dennis Gardeck. Okay, let's have some
respect. Sanders.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nah, Myjai Sanders has a physicality of Gumby.
Yeah. And listen, Dennis Gardeck is fine, but let's get someone in there who can maybe sniff double-digit sacks this season. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think Anderson. We'll see, but who knows? Maybe they have him as a tier 5 pass rusher. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Chris Sims is the GM of the Cardinals.
He's the one bullying them into taking Tyree Wilson.
He'd bully them into taking Lucas Van Ness.
Oh, that would be such a Jonathan Gannon pick.
That would
do it.
I would love it.
All right, Kevin, you are up with the Indianapolis Colts at number 4.
I mean, I think consensus.
Pick a name you can spell.
So none of them.
Sound it out. Sound it out.
I'm gonna take Anthony Richardson. I have doubts about his accuracy, but I still think he's the third best quarterback in this class and has the highest ceiling out of, I think, all the quarterbacks. So it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, that seems like it's coming around pretty consensus that Anthony Richardson is. I mean, we've kind of known that Indianapolis has had a thing for him for a little bit, despite all the Hendon Hooker love. And if they're going vertical, I mean, my goodness, you're not going to find one better vertical passer in this class, and that's CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think we've gone
right.
pretty chalk so far.
I'm going to change that at number 5 because the Seahawks are going to Seahawk. And it's a sneak preview to my mock draft.
Don't do it.
Don't do
on
this.
Wednesday.
Don't do
we're gonna do it. Look, hold on. I want to make this argument.
You're gonna ruin a pick for me later on.
They always do this. They always make a Seahawks pick, and I think that this is the ultimate Seahawks player. They're gonna take Clemson edge Miles Murphy. Is it too high? Yes. Should he go over some of these guys? No, but it's the Seahawks. They beat by their own drum. AJ said it to me earlier. He is an even front guy, not an odd front guy. Are they going to continuously run more odd fronts this year like they did last year? They've always been an even front team. I think that they're going to see Miles Murphy as a more athletic version of what Michael Bennett was, and they're going to want to duplicate it. And I think that that's why he's going to be the pick. It's also the Seahawks, so you really... It's the Seahawks. You can't really fight it. They do this every year.
All right, so I'll pick 6 here at Detroit, and we'll just. Alrighty, we're already off the rails. So
yeah, this is let's pick Joey Porter at 6 and just go.
No,
just go
absolutely not. I'm not picking Joey Porter at 6. So. Here's the thing with the Detroit Lions, right? I've seen edge rusher here. I could make an argument for Tyree Wilson based on the scheme, but they've already invested a lot into the pass rush room. They've got like 5 or 6 defensive end and edge guys all under contract already. I don't know how much if they're gonna want to spend the 6th overall pick on another one, even if Tyree Wilson might be in a decent shot for development there. I am not a fan of Jeffrey Okudah so far, and they benched him repeatedly last year. Yeah. I mean, they repeatedly benched him, and they were frustrated with performance and effort and all sorts of things. So they went out. They went out and they signed Emmanuel Mosley. They went out and they signed Cameron Sutton. Go get Christian Gonzalez to complete that trio. You could figure out Okudah later on. They haven't even decided if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option yet. I think Christian Gonzalez. When you look at how they draft young and they draft athletic. They are very much age and the RAS score, RAS, whatever you want to call it. Christian Gonzalez is an elite athlete, and he's not even 21 yet. That's why I went Gonzalez over Witherspoon, because Witherspoon's already 22 and a little bit outside of their age range.
Gonzalez is also the brother-in-law of famous former Lions quarterback David Blau.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings
legend David Blau.
Most famously known for something his wife did.
Yeah. And also the duck call thing. No, that was Devlin Hodges. Never mind.
that was
not even him.
Not even a line, I don't think.
All right. Pick number 7. Alex, you get a chance to torture Raiders. What are you going to do?
Well,
do it.
I think a lot of this has been a popular Will Levis spot. I'm not going to do that because it seems like we collectively as a society have gotten over the Will Levis thing recently, except for talking about how he's too shredded to play quarterback. I think that's probably more in line with how NFL decision makers see Will Levis, which is that it's probably going to be a little bit further down than pick 7 here. Also, from a Raiders perspective, they brought in Jimmy G and Brian Hoyer, I think, if I remember right. And the GM is from New England. The head coach is from New England. Everyone is from New England. Jacoby Myers is from New England. Like, they're just the Patriots. I think that McDaniels is going to want to roll with Jimmy G this year and see what happens. Because if they suck, then the 2024 quarterback class is pretty good. So I think if you're pivoting off of quarterback, then corner is probably the next option there, and so I'm going to take Devin Witherspoon because AJ didn't. Because he is the angriest player. Actually, no, he's the second angriest player in this draft class because the angriest player is Marte Mapu. He's the second angriest player in the draft class. The Raiders need help at corner. They've invested a little bit in it, but not any like top picks since like Damon Arnett, who's not in the league anymore. So I think adding another piece on the outside and someone who's just gonna like beat the crap out of people on the exterior is the pick.
Is there a reason why David Arnett's not in the league anymore? Or...
No, he's just disappeared into thin air. No one knows where he is.
He just poof.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cornerbacks are coming off the board hot and heavy. AJ mentioned it earlier that we're going to see runs on premium positions. We've already seen it with both quarterback and cornerback here at the beginning of the draft. Kevin, you were up at 8 with the Falcons, and they could go a lot of different ways here.
Give me Jalen Carter. I mean, I get why he's falling. I get why he's falling, but I think some team in the top 10 will take a guy with his talent, and Atlanta seems like the fit if he's still there at 8 and his ability to impact the game interior. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer if he's still on the board at 8.
Yeah, I would easily take him at 8. If he ends up falling anywhere into the teens, if I'm the Vikings, I'd want to trade up for him. Like that's just a game wrecker.
Reading a comment here from Joseph Acosta. Dennis Gardick is not a real person. How dare you? How dare you?
He isn't. I don't care. He isn't.
See, my one hang up would be the fact that they still have Grady Jarrett and they just paid David Onyemata a lot of money, but Jalen Carter is
I don't care.
So talented.
I don't care.
It's like who cares? Yeah, exactly.
You figure it out later.
Yeah.
I think the
move Jalen Carter to edge, just like Elijah Fancy. Like, make it work.
Up next at Vikings Wire.
We're gonna move Will Levis to edge because he's too shredded to play quarterback. My call.
Right.
Listen, if you make a good argument, I will post it, but it's got to be in good faith, and I don't think making Will Levis an edge is in good faith. So let's move on to
anything
pick
that
number 9.
does is in good faith.
Well, that's
Will Levis
debatable.
is in good faith.
That later.
Will Levis himself is not good faith.
Pick number 9. That would be for the Chicago Bears. I know AJ's probably going to have something to say about this. I'm taking Paris Johnson Jr. because I think he's the best left tackle in this class. I think he has the highest upside, which is, I think, the route that Chicago needs to go. Plus, he does have guard versatility, and it was debatable how good he was at guard in 2021 for Ohio State. But when you want to build your best 5, you could do that. But I think you just slot him in at left tackle and let him go from day one. Let him learn on the fly. He and Justin Fields already know each other from their time at Ohio State, so they're going to have a little bit more chemistry than you would if you have other players, because he's probably going to be able to pick up little nuances with Fields that other players, like guys like Skoronski and Jones, just wouldn't have. So I'm taking Paris Johnson Jr. at 9.
Yeah,
Real quick, I
it.
saw a comment about how someone thinks that everyone is drinking. Nope, not true. This is just how we are.
Yeah.
It only gets worse as we go on.
This is water. This is water right here, yo.
Yeah.
I had one beer an hour and a half ago throwing a ball to Odie outside in our backyard. Like, I'm not drinking. This is just water, I promise.
Hey, Tyler, can you let Odie make a couple picks for a mock draft? Because I just want to see if he would not pick Miles Murphy at 5.
Listen, I don't think you should go at 5. I think the Seahawks might take him at 5.
So I'm kind of with you there, Tyler, on Paris Johnson going to Chicago. I think it kind of lets you figure out where to put Braxton Jones. You know, kind of either at right tackle, you're going to move him inside, compete with Tevin Jenkins. I don't know, but I'm kind of with you. I think he's at least a little bit more comfortable for projection at left tackle rather than going, maybe Braxton Jones will figure it out. You already have your solution. Paris Johnson is a gifted player in his own right. So I don't have any qualms with it.
I do just want to say Paris Johnson follows me on Twitter, which is either a character positive or a character negative. We can decide
that's a red
that
Huge
flag.
character negative.
It's a red
Huge
flag.
flag.
Huge.
He's going undrafted.
Can you imagine getting in the draft room? Like, oh, he follows Kevin. We got to take him off the board. Like,
gotta take him off. Sorry. Paris Johnson, also an accomplished sports journalist who was mentored by Mike Garafolo at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like, actually good at it, too.
Is Paris Johnson the man of many talents? The most interesting man in the draft? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
wait.
So much reason.
Does that mean he doesn't love football and teams will push him down in the draft?
Yes. Always.
Probably.
All right, pick number 10.
I don't know, because his talent, his passions off the field all have to do with like sports writing and stuff. So maybe he's fine.
And hot sauce, right?
And hot sauce. Well, yeah, beef jerky, and yeah.
There you go.
Anyway,
anyways, so here we go. The Philadelphia Eagles are picking here, and I did a fair amount of research into this one. So because the picks on this, if you read a bunch of mock drafts, are all over the place. You got anywhere from Bijan Robinson to Brian Branch to Lucas Van Ness to a falling Jalen Carter. Like, the consensus on what the Eagles will do is wild. But so I went ahead and I did some research here. So before Jordan Davis last year, Howie Roseman had not selected a defensive player in the first 2 rounds since 2017. 13 of his last 16 first and second round picks have been offensive players. Every single first round pick, this is where it gets kind of interesting here, under Howie Roseman has been a lineman, wide receiver, or quarterback. Furthermore, 21 of their last 31 first round picks as an organization, going back 30 years, has been a trench player. They haven't drafted a running back in the first round since 1986, a corner since 2002, and they've never drafted a safety in the first round, which is kind of wild for an organization that's been around as long as the Philadelphia Eagles. This is like an organizational trend. So with that kind of being said, I'm confident with them not taking Bijan Robinson. I just think people are putting them there because that's a popular pick. I don't think they're going to take Brian Branch. So we're kind of left with trenches. I think they're out on the offensive line.
Will Levis.
I think Philadelphia Eagles Twitter would skin me alive if I took a quarterback for them. As funny as it would be, I think they would. I think my mentions would never stop. So I think they're out on an offensive lineman. I think we can all agree that their offensive line was pretty dang good last year. I think that's pretty consensus. So now we got kind of an edge rusher or a defensive tackle. And for my money, I don't think there's a defensive tackle worth the pick. However, we've already brought the guy up. I'm kind of going Kalijah Kancey here. I think
edge rusher.
I think he could run the stunts that they're going to want under Sean Desai. I think he gives you some pass rush juice inside that they don't really have. Fletcher Cox is getting up there. I mean, he's a solid pass rusher still, but he's not great. Milton Williams is not super disruptive. I don't like Tyree Wilson, so I'm not going to take him here either. Don't even think about it. So, like, the more that I kind of checked off the boxes, I was like, why not Kalijah Kancey? Like, the Eagles can afford to kind of slack on the run defense because Jordan Davis takes up three offensive linemen on his own.
Yeah,
I disagree.
Kancey's an interesting one. I'll say this.
Good.
I don't think they're going to stay in a 4-man front. I think they're probably going to transition to more of a 3-man front with the side. That's where I think that this makes it a little less likely because I think Kancey as a 3 techniques next to Jordan Davis kicks ass because Jordan Davis's mammoth size I think will open things up a lot for Kancey. How does that work in an odd front?
They're a base 5'1". So I think if you put him over tackle and you twist and stunt like hell, like they're going to, they were already a 3-3-5 base team last year. You need some decent play at your 4. Like, why not? You know, I just think it checks off all the boxes. They need more juice up front, regardless. And if they're comfortable with his size and lack of run defense, and they're just like, we just need pass rush juice, I say go for it.
All right.
But the problem
So-
is there's no run defense. He's just not
They don't care
there.
about that, dog. If they cared about that, then they'd actually get a linebacker. But they don't have any, so who cares?
They've never cared about linebackers.
They don't care about
hilarious.
Linebackers aren't real.
Exactly.
No.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
Especially
All right,
in this
PFF,
class.
calm down.
All right, pick number 11, Tennessee Titans. Alex, where are you going?
This is a little bit more of a decision than I thought it was going to be because originally going into this, I think that I was pretty much just like, oh yeah, we'll just slam the Will Levis button. But Tyree Wilson is still on the board, which is interesting, if only because the Titans cut Bud Dupree because he played like 5 games in 2 seasons because he can't stay healthy. And they kind of need another edge rusher. I don't know off the top of my head how well he would fit there, just because usually when I'm doing exercises like this, Tyree Wilson doesn't get this far, and so I haven't had to think about this pairing very much. I think that ultimately for the Titans, though, like, you have to do something about the offense being completely flatlined all the time outside of Derrick Henry, because like that the Titans are in a weird spot because like I don't think that they're like full on rebuilding quite yet, because even after trading AJ Brown, like they haven't dumped the Derrick Henry contract. They still have Ryan Tannehill. Like they still have kind of like Kevin Byard is still on the team as of right now, although like he's asked for a trade or for his release or something. Like they still have kind of all those veteran pieces, and it seems like they're going to try to kind of still compete. And I think that if you're going to do that while also trying to build for the future a little bit with a new GM coming in, I think that ultimately you have to take Levis, just because like otherwise, what is the vision? Like, what are you trotting Ryan Tannehill back out there again? Are you playing Malik
No, it's
Willis?
Malik Willis. Malik Willis.
Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna go with Levis, and Tyree Wilson's fall will continue, and I'm sure we will take him eventually. But for my money, I think that Levis is the pick for the Titans.
There we go. Yeah, we get souped up Ryan Tannehill, according to a good friend of the show, JP Acosta.
Shredded Ryan Tannehill.
We get shredded Ryan Tannehill. There we go. Ryan Tannehill, but he's a cool surfer dude. That's
What did they say on the NFL Stock Exchange? Austin Gale said that his floor
His floor is
dude perfect.
his floor is dude perfect. Yeah.
tremendous.
Yeah, Will Levis
All
is
right,
like
Kevin.
if Ryan Tannehill. Will Levis is like if Ryan Tannehill lived in a GNC.
Jesus.
So
Trying to sell you Bang energy drinks every 5 seconds.
Jesus.
Custom
All right.
custom mayo coffee flavor.
All right, Kevin. Bryce Young to the Texans at 2nd overall. Now you have them at 12th overall.
Okay, so I do just want to say that Will Levis is the perfect amount of unhinged to be a quarterback 1 in the NFL, but also I'm going to go a little bit off the board in terms of what we've seen the Texans be mocked at 12, and I think in my most recent one I gave him Quentin Johnston, but with Peter Skoronski on the board, I'm going to take him. I know they have Laramie Tunsil. I know they have Titus Howard. I know that they don't particularly need another tackle, but it seems like they're willing to trade Laramie Tunsil. And if you're going to trade Laramie Tunsil, I think Peter Skoronski, who looked at least solid at left tackle at Northwestern,
They just
Didn't they just
extended
extend
Tunsil.
him?
sense.
They just extended
They
it.
gave him record money.
Did they really?
Yeah, they made
Yeah.
him the
Did I
highest
miss
paid
something?
tackle.
yeah,
3
He's
years,
like-
Oh,
75
so
million.
scratch that.
Yeah, it was like
Scratch
2
that.
weeks ago, dog.
Kevin.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
man.
know what, AJ? Sorry.
Take
Now, hey,
Tyree.
hey,
Let's
this
be
is-
number.
Kevin, let's explore this real quick, because one of the draws with Skoronski is he can kind of play, like, some people think he can play all 5 positions. Is that still enticing for you?
No. At 12 with the needs that they have, I'm not taking an offensive guard. The pick was sort of
rude.
under the basis that they would trade Larry Tunzel, and clearly I missed them extending him. So give me Tyree Wilson because he's good, and like I thought at a point that they would take an edge rusher at 2 and pass up on quarterback, but Davis Mills is bad. In fact, he might be really bad. Like I don't know where we stand on Davis Mills, but so like they're going to take an edge rusher at some point.
Remember when he was the best quarterback in the 2021 draft class? That was a fun 6 months of off-season Twitter.
Davis Mills is Mike Glennon with a Twitter following.
Mike Glennon
have a Twitter following? Wait, I'm pretty sure Mike Glennon does like film breakdowns of like the ACC.
Who cares? We're done.
I hope he does.
I will say I do like Tyree Wilson to the Texans. D'Amico Ryan's just going to use him like Eric Armstead.
Yeah,
I think that's a great scheme fit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I think opposite of Grenard and guys like that, just kind of replacing Okoronkwo on the outside. I think that would honestly it'd be a slam dunk kind of mix of fit and coaching development. Yeah.
All right, 13 to the Jets. We're gonna assume
Aaron Rodgers is
coming. Oh. I wonder, like, they have a needed offensive line. You've got 2 on the board, and I'm wondering how much they would have to like focus on that, or with losing out on OBJ, if they're gonna want to try and get Rodgers another weapon. I really wonder what the thought process in that building will be. Obviously, we know Joe Douglas is gonna want to take a big ugly, but what is the eventuality going to happen? Is this a spot for Jackson Smith and Jigba? Pair him with his college teammate Garrett Wilson. I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. I am completely ignoring it. I'm taking Peter Skoronski because I just think you have to figure out a way to build your best 5. And I think Broderick Jones might have a slightly higher ceiling. Skoronski gives you flexibility to truly build your best 5 because you have a hybrid guy already in Elijah Vera Tucker. You can determine, hey, would I rather have Tucker, Skoronski outside of guard or outside of tackle and then move one of them inside to guard? Or you can put them both at guard and find it and have Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton at tackle. Like I think that it's just too wise of a play to be able to build your best 5 up front and really give Rodgers, who he's going to be 40. He's not going to be able to do the heroic acrobat stuff forever. You have to give him some protection in the pocket, and I think this is the best route.
Can they somehow draft Jordy Nelson at 13? Because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been committed to bringing the band back together. So can they find a way to get Jordy Nelson at 13?
No, they don't need to. They have Randall Cobb.
And Alan Lazard.
Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah, the interesting part of that is, there's been a lot of comments of Aaron Rodgers wants another receiver, They just paid Mecole Hardman and Alan Lazard. They already have Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson. Like
Corey Davis is presumably gone though.
If he's a cap casualty, it becomes a discussion. But Aaron Rodgers is only going to throw to Alan Lazard, and let's be real here. He's not Cobb. Yeah, his little hand signal, little gang signs that he loves doing that only Alan Lazard will know in that offense. But here we are at 14 of the Patriots, my pick. This is
a fascinating spot.
It's pretty straightforward. Broderick Jones, I'm taking a tackle, and we're moving on. They have not hidden their fascination with this tackle class. They need a tackle bad. Broderick Jones can play both spots. He fits their power mold. I am all for it. I don't think that they have hidden their love for him, and I am full steam ahead. I think Broderick Jones can be a stud at the next level.
Tyler really said this is a fascinating spot, and AJ said no.
I think this is an interesting Brian Bresee spot.
Yeah, I just don't know because they have Christian Barmore kind of already playing that role, so I don't know if they're going to be like doubling down, especially with the tackle board the way it is, because the tackles are going to fly off there by the time they pick next.
Yeah, All right. Well, we got 15. The evil Green Bay Packers are on the clock. Katson, where are you going?
I'm seeing
Jake
that they
Moody.
put up
Jake
a
Moody.
specialist board here for you,
Jake
Alex.
Moody. Ethan Evans, the Wingate punter, elite punter. Yeah, honestly, Jake Moody wouldn't be that bad of a pick. Mason Crosby has not been retained as of yet, and probably isn't going to come back. There's not really an established kicker on the Packers roster. I think Jake Moody is by far the best kicker in this draft. Hit a long of 57 at Michigan's Pro Day. Was pretty much perfect at the combine from all reports. I know too much about kickers. This is a bad bit to get to put up for me because I can do this all day long. I do think that ultimately the Packers' decision, I know like the discussion about receiver and tight end and everything is like, oh, well, like Jordan Love will need weapons because all of them are going to the Jets. I don't think that the Packers' unwillingness to draft pass catchers has been about Aaron Rodgers. I think it's been an organizational preference over the years, and so I don't think that they're going to do it, even if they have their choice of like wide receiver 1 or tight end 1. I think what makes the most sense to me here is Lucas Van Ness. If you look at the Packers roster, they have, I think, 6 edge rushers on the roster right now. Gary, Preston Smith, Enigbare, Hollins, Garvin, and so 5. And then also, like if you factor in Zadarius Smith, also who played for the Packers for a few years before going to the Vikings, only 2 of them are under 270. And they're both at like 248, 250-ish. And Van Ness is 272. He plays with the power profile that the Packers love in their edge rushers. Like between Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, like it's just guys that like are going to get after it and run defense, beat the crap out of tackles, and just win with power like over and over and over again. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Packers are a very high RAS team in the first round always, and I think Van Ness hit like a 9.72 RAS. If I remember right. So overall, I think that's what makes the most sense to me, especially considering that most of the wide receivers on the board here do not fit the Packers' size criteria.
So you're going Van Ness?
Yeah, so I'm going Van Ness.
I thought
good.
I like that. Yeah.
Send them players that aren't that good. I like that.
Yeah, definitely going to be a project, but maybe Preston Smith stays on the team for an extra year, and he just kind of Van Ness basically redshirts the season.
They did
restructure
like Preston Smith, so it makes sense. And they hit on Gary, so it's really hard to argue with them when they take a Super Tracy pass rusher and be like, "Oh, it won't work out." Well, it already worked out once. We'll see how Gary comes back from that torn Achilles, but I'm not a Van Ness fan. Yeah. I'm just not. So
I think he's bad. I'm just gonna say it.
Oh my god.
The good news is that you can kind of like mix and match all 3 of them and kind of get your best like group out on the field at once, depending on your personnel. And good lord, they need some run defense up front. I mean, bad. It was really. I mean, I'm saying this on a Vikings show. They don't need a run defense. Never mind. No,
no.
Dalvin Cook can go for 250 every time.
Yeah.
Alexander Madison, actually.
Oh God, I don't want to talk about Madison. He sucks.
No. Hold on.
Washington.
Let's talk about. Let
him cook.
Look, Alexander Madison is the jaggiest jag that ever jagged, and paying him $3.5 million a year is a bad financial decision.
Tyler, Alexander Madison. I don't know if you know this. He's on the Vikings, not the Jags.
Do you know what jag means?
Yes.
Just another guy.
It means he lives in Jacksonville.
No, it's an acronym.
Bulky masterclass. We're off. Okay.
Oh my god.
Who's picking next? We got Washington. Right?
Kevin.
Yeah. Kevin at Washington. Okay.
I'll keep this one fairly short.
Kevin, aka Dan Snyder.
Oh god! Don't insult Kevin like that.
Jesus. So, it's Joey Porter Jr. Like, they desperately need a quarterback who has a pulse and is good at football and can maybe defend a wide receiver.
Respect Kendall Fuller here, man.
No,
yes.
I'm not.
Kendall Fuller's fine.
Kendall Fuller's
Respect
fine.
Benjamin St. Just, Canadian legend.
Yeah. Draft
Gophers
Twitter
legend,
legend.
too.
I am not going to respect these guys who are just dudes.
Kevin can't spell St. Just, so that's why.
That's true. It is hard because it's a.
STJUSTE.
No, you missed the
You missed-
dash in between the.
Yeah, you
St.
missed the
and the Jews.
hyphen. I'm sorry.
It's guys.
Sorry.
It's not a hyphen. It's a period.
No, it's not. It's a hyphen in St. Just's name because he's Canadian. You
No,
got
it's
it
a
wrong.
No,
period.
it's
it
a
is not.
It's a period.
The dude played in Minnesota. It's a period.
It's
It's a
definitely
hyphen
period.
on his official roster page.
They're wrong. I just want to point that out.
They're
Okay,
wrong.
so it
flat
turns
out.
out that it is in fact a hyphen. If I could get this to work.
It's a hyphen
Yeah, it's a
on the
hyphen.
University of Minnesota website.
Kevin spells it St. Juice according to JP.
Oh God.
It's a hyphen
Okay,
on the
so-
University of Minnesota
That's
St.
fair.
website.
Juice. St. Juice sounds
I-
like a LA deity. Let's be real.
I'm going to eat the L because I've always, in my headcanon, it's always been a period. So I'm just going to take the L and we're going to move on.
Yeah.
17.
I've never been
Pittsburgh
wrong.
Steelers. Yeah, that's a lie. Let's. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers. This is an interesting spot. Offensive line would be ideal here, but I don't think there's really anybody we're taking. You could talk Darnell Wright. I'm not there at 17. I'm not quite there with Anton Harrison either. I think that if you move back to like 25, feel a lot more comfortable taking both of those players there. But I'll say this much. I'm very intrigued about a Brian Bresee fit here as a potential Cam Hayward replacement. Hayward's getting in his mid-30s. He's going to eventually tone down, and I think that's where I'm going to end up going here because I just don't see another fantastic fit. You could argue a Quentin Johnston or Jackson Smith and Jigba because I think they could use help at receiver, but it's the Steelers. They're going to take somebody in round 4 and they'll make a Pro Bowl. That's just what they do. Or they'll flip him to the Bears for a second-round pick.
It's a good point.
I'm just going to take Brian Bresee and just let him be an athletic dude on that defensive line, and he can learn from one of the best at the position he'll end up taking over in Cam Hayward.
Also, of
Don't
note,
ask me to spell his first name.
Mike Tomlin
please.
was at Brian Bresee's pro day at Clemson, and the last player that the Steelers have taken in the first round without Tomlin or the GM being present at the pro day was Ziggy Ansah in like 2005. And they
Ziggy
didn't go
Ansah?
to
Cook.
like
Ziggy
TCU,
Ansah
et
went
cetera.
or got drafted
Yeah,
by
I don't-
the Lions.
Do you
whatever
mean Ziggy
year it
Hood?
was, it doesn't matter. It was Ziggy Hood. Sorry, yes,
Ziggy Hood, the
Okay,
tackle from
Ziggy Hood.
Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Point is, it's been like almost 2 decades since the Steelers took someone that they didn't attend the pro day for, like that the head coach or the GM didn't attend the pro day for. They were at Clemson. They didn't go to like TCU or Pitt or any of these like similar ones. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm kind of in an interesting spot here because it's funny you mentioned Darnell Wright because I'm very much considering taking him here for Detroit. Extremely. But
to do what?
play right guard.
Play football, I assume.
He'll move
Alex.
into
That's what
right
we're
guard and
doing here.
eventually replace Sewell at right tackle when Sewell kicks over to left, replacing Taylor Decker. However, that's too many complicated steps. I'm going to go Nolan Smith because I think Nolan Smith is still on the board here. And
is.
I absolutely think that adding Nolan Smith to that pass rush room with Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston, I think that is a stellar move. You got to get after the passer now. He fits their mold. He's quote unquote, he's going to bite the kneecaps that Dan Campbell loves. Excellent pass rusher, great run defender. Like I think he can play in any single front that they want to run. So give me Nolan Smith and let's boogie in Detroit.
AJ, let me ask you this because we talked about at 6 and you made the pick talking about how that edge room was strong. You didn't want to kind of double up there, but then you come back with Nolan Smith at 18. So how does that thought process change as you go from 6 to 18, considering kind of where that room is?
Well, to me,
He's
it's
a
just
liar.
mainly no. To me, it's mainly about balancing the strengths of the draft class, and I think at 6 you're talking about a premier pass rusher versus a premier corner, and then both of the classes kind of start to change. And truth be told, at 6, I didn't think Nolan Smith would be here at 18 either, so I kind of audibled about right at the Green Bay pick, just to kind of go, you know what, we'll go with Nolan Smith if he's still there, just because I think if you pass on a premier corner at the top for an edge rusher, I don't know if that's the wisest investment. But coming back around later on and being like, hey, this guy fell down the draft boards. Why not? They can move on from Charles Harris or Okora if they wanted to. I think Nolan Smith is the best talent on the board at this point. So I just went with that.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
All right, Katson, 19th overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is this where Hendon Hooker comes off the board?
No.
If you send Hendon
Thompson
Hooker.
Robinson.
No.
Jay Kaner.
Yeah, this is
Tyson Badgett.
this is an interesting spot because the Bucks have a lot of things going on, but ultimately, we talked about at the top how a lot of premium positions are probably going to start flying off the board. The top 3 tackles are already gone, but Tampa doesn't have anyone that plays left tackle on their roster as of right now. They cut Donovan Smith. Maybe you're moving Tristan Wirfs over, but then you're just creating a hole at right tackle. I think by the time their pick comes back up around, they're not going to have anyone left on the board that they want to start in year 1. Obviously, like guys like Bijan Robinson are tempting. A quarterback is sort of tempting, although not really, because you're looking at Hendon Hooker. I think that they're just going to let it ride with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask and see who wins that god-awful competition. Wide receiver, maybe, but like you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin still. I think it's fine. I'm going to go with Anton Harrison over Darnell Wright just because I think that Harrison's going to go a lot higher than people are think he is as of right now. I think that Harrison is a more natural fit at left tackle. Wright has played right tackle and left tackle in college, but I think that Harrison's a better fit at left tackle immediately. You don't have to move Wirfs this way. There's no temptation to move Wirfs because Harrison has never played right tackle, as far as I know. AJ, you're the Oklahoma guy, so correct me if I'm wrong.
He has. It wasn't a lot, but he has played occasionally.
Okay, yeah, but primarily a left tackle. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Anton. I think it's an interesting argument with Darnell Wright, just because you kind of wonder where Wright's best position is. I could see them kind of convincing themselves to taking Wright and playing him to replace Shaq Mason at right guard, and just kind of. But again, you have left tackle. You don't have a left tackle on roster. Because I think they even lost Josh Wells, so like you don't even have a backup left tackle on your roster. So I'm with you.
I think they also lost Brandon Walton, did they? Like, I'm pretty sure they lost all their left tackles.
Did they bring back Brandon? Who would bring back that member of the Waltons family, dude? That show went off the air 80 years ago.
Respect Final Four participant FAU. Respect them.
It looks like Brandon Walton is still on the Bucks.
Okay.
So they have a left tackle. Problem solved.
Right.
All right, we've got pick number 20. Seattle Seahawks shocked everyone when they got Myles Murphy at 5. Where do they go at 20?
I'm going to try and correct your wrongs, Tyler, because I still can't believe you took Myles Murphy at 5. But I think he's still
the legend of Seahawks drafting did.
No, you did. You're the one picking for that.
No, you did that. You could have just chosen to ignore that and done something else, but you chose to do that.
It's the Seahawks. They had 1 year of good drafting. Everybody thinks they're a good, well-run organization. They stink at this historically.
Okay, anyways, I think Brian Branch is still on the board, and they have safeties, but
yeah, who cares about this receiver?
I like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf too much. So, like, they have safeties. They have 2 safeties who are really dang good at football. So, it seems weird taking another safety here. But I like his ability at slot corner. I think he can play slot corner. And if it means not having to play any of these other quarterbacks at slot corner, I think it's a successful move.
Yeah. Brian Branch I mean, I think he solves other issues with kind of the overhang stuff. He could shut. He's the one guy in the division that could probably keep up with Cooper Kupp. Uh, I think it makes a ton of sense, especially because you don't know how healthy Jamal Adams is going to be. So you just add more talent to that safety room just in case. And if Jamal Adams is healthy, then you get a really dadgum good nickel corner. You know. So
Brian Branch
I'm with you,
taking
Kev.
all the Ryan Neal snaps is a pretty good outcome for Seattle, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a massive upgrade.
Easy. Branch is the
Oh,
guy I
great.
would love in Minnesota, but I just don't see that happening. Let's talk Chargers.
Oh
This
boy.
is a very interesting team. I could see the Chargers going a lot of different ways. I like the idea of Brian Branch to the Chargers because I think having him and Derwin James on the back end would just be fun as hell. But you look at it, receiver, they need somebody who can get open over the middle. And they need somebody who can get
Don't
open
do this.
with. So I have
Michael
two ways
Mayer.
I'm going to go. I do really like the fit of Michael Mayer and how he's able to win up the seam, and he can beat double, triple, and quadruple coverage with his ball skills. But I also I see Jackson Smith and Jigba on the board,
Don't
and
do
I
this.
can't pass them.
No,
I'm
don't do
taking
this.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Don't
Do
do
it.
this.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am not the biggest Jackson Smith and Jigba fan, but I think his style of play complements what they have in the room really well, and I think it'd just work just sending him across the field. You have Keenan Allen, who's aging, is probably not on this team next year. Mike Williams is your vertical X guy, and now you have somebody who's going to win with nuance and technique over the middle. I like the fit. You could argue Zay Flowers here, and I would
don't.
completely understand that, but it's better than Dalton Kincaid. So
Questionable.
Oh
yeah.
Just real quick. Jackson Smith and Jigba. To be clear, my disdain for this pick has nothing to do with him as a player. I think that he's very good at football. And like if he's on the board, I think that he'll certainly be in consideration. I think that he'll probably go earlier than this, and so it probably won't end up mattering. My disdain for the pick is more so about I don't really actually know what he does in 2023. Because Keenan Allen is still going to be your primary slot receiver. If you want to play Smith and Jigba at Z, then like fine, I guess. But he doesn't really fit any of Tom Telesco's historical thresholds at the position.
Brass, baby.
Yeah. Telesco's a huge RAS guy in the first round. He's also another slow receiver. And like he wins with nuance over the middle, and like cool, that's fine. But like the Chargers need to get more vertical. There's no two ways about that. I do agree that like one of Keenan or Mike Williams is not going to be on the team in 2024 just because of the way that the cap sheet balances out. But yeah, I don't know. I just think like Telesco and Brandon Staley have to be all in on winning this season, because if the Chargers like don't get to at least the divisional round, probably like that entire staff is getting fired. And so from that perspective, I don't know necessarily what Smith and Jigba does for you in terms of like getting closer to that goal that like a player like say Michael Mayer, who would be your number one tight end immediately, or an edge rusher or
Bijan
someone.
Robinson.
Bijan, for example,
Yeah.
get as far as those guys get you comparatively, but.
So
Zach Charbonnet would be your running back one, so
yeah, at this point it's Isaiah Spiller if Austin Eckler's not going to play. So my pick at Baltimore here is pretty straightforward. They haven't replaced Marcus Peters in free agency. I think I don't like Brandon Stevens' tape. I don't really think Jalen Armour Davis is going to be the answer out there either. So I'm going Deonte Banks, corner out of Maryland. Just an elite athlete, super stud, physical. Like he just fits that kind of mold. Like when you think of a Baltimore Raven, you kind of think of those early defenses under Ray Lewis and that kind of physical, high athlete mold. I think Deonte Banks fits that in every sort of manner. And he gives you a really freaking good man and zone corner outside. Just take him and line him up. You know, I think him and Marlon Humphrey is probably the best corner duo in the AFC North.
So AJ, real quick, is this they drafted or they signed OBJ? They don't need a wide receiver, or is it they have more pressing needs and
Yeah,
they're
Or
not going
this
to
wide
take
receiver
one?
class stinks.
yeah, and part of that is like
That is also
I-
an option, but
I think if you're going to go, if looking at Todd Monken is pretty historically an 11 personnel guy, and I think OBJ, Rashad Bateman, and Devin Duvernay with Mark Andrews, I think is enough.
really is
that you
not
could-
good enough. Let's be
that you
honest.
No, I think it is. I think it is. I think especially when you look at your corner room right now, and you've got to figure out a way to stop all of the wide receiver talent that's now in the AFC North. I mean, they still haven't figured out how to stop Joe Burrow, and he's in his fourth year now. Like you got to get guys that can match up with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Amari Cooper. Like you could try and out athlete them and out offense, but that hasn't worked.
Do it
So
always.
yeah, I mean that'd be fun. But I think with how Baltimore kind of looks, and they're always a little bit more defensive team, I think Mike McDonald is going to want a corner. And this wide receiver class, you can get a guy in round 3. You're not going to get a Deontay Banks in round 3.
My only thing with that is you saying that Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, and OBJ is like good enough, because it isn't. Like
Yeah,
it isn't
I
at
think
all.
it is.
It's bad.
I think it is.
I do
OBJ
think
hasn't
that,
played football in a year.
Who cares?
Yeah. All right. Well, Kevin, let's look at this. I think Bateman is a starting Z in this league. The biggest thing is he's got to be healthy. If he stays healthy, he can be a 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL. I don't really see a pathway where he's not.
I don't
unless
disagree,
Lamar
but he wasn't healthy last year, so that
I think
doesn't
also,
really solve that problem now, does it?
also I think
Ideally,
to
this
AJ's
is a spot where...
point,
Oh, go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to AJ's point, like if you look at Monken's offense at Georgia, like there's not a ton of guys who like we're talking about as like top of the line draft prospects coming out of Georgia at wide receiver. Like their best receiver last year was probably like Kearis Jackson, who's gonna go undrafted in this class, and like Lad McConkey's like pretty decent, but like is again like not gonna be like a first round pick. I think that like Monken's offense is kind of predicated around like you can get more production out of less, and so I kind of get where AJ's coming from in that sense.
So Tyler,
Yeah,
or Alex,
ideally-
excuse me, not Tyler, but I only asked this in the sense of like, was Monken's offense not predicated on wide receivers because they had 2 freak of nature tight ends and about 16 running backs who could run the ball effectively? And
Yeah, but
if
so do the
that's the
Ravens.
case,
So do the Ravens, yeah.
the Ravens don't have 16 running backs who could run the ball capably.
Yeah,
they
they
have
do.
2.
They got 5. They got 5 under contract. They'll
J.K.
figure something
Dobbins is
Three.
hurt half the time. Gus Edwards is mid. Like,
You can
what?
still run the ball. And they got Lamar Jackson.
They have
don't worry.
Lamar Jackson. They can run the ball.
For now.
Ideally,
I
this
didn't know
is a
this became
spot.
a Baltimore Ravens podcast.
Ideally, this is a spot where Baltimore trades down because they only have like 5 picks in this draft. Like I
Good
think
enough.
realistically, this is probably where they trade down. But you know,
Yeah,
in
for someone
this
jumping the
scenario,
Vikings for Hendon Hooker.
yeah, in this scenario,
Jake Hader.
in this scenario, I think Deontay Banks is best player on the board, and I think he matches a need. So I'm just going to say,
Fair.
Yeah.
I
Alright,
don't
well,
agree,
let's
but
not-
fair.
Let's not bury the lead anymore. This is a Minnesota Vikings podcast. Alex, the Minnesota
it?
Vikings are up. Who are you going to take for the purple and gold?
if you take
Johnson.
Hendon Hooker, I'll Venmo you $50. I'm kidding. No, I won't.
No. As tempting as Hendon Hooker is, he's going at 5 to Seattle is the real pick. No, I'm taking Johnston. Quentin Johnston from
Oh.
TCU.
I am
Interesting.
vindicated.
Okay.
So, fun
so-
fact.
Good pick,
Fun
Alex.
fact here. So
So-
I'm in a Discord and they're like, "Oh, Tyler's just gonna find a way to maneuver Johnston to the Vikings." I'm like, "I don't even make the pick." He's like, "You're gonna use your hair and special powers to find a way." Well, I didn't have to do anything. You made it the pick yourself. This is great.
Because Alex
Yeah,
is bringing
so-
the hair this time.
Yeah, true.
That's why.
I was thinking the same thing a few picks ago, Tyler.
Hey, I'll say this. I just got a message. That's it. I'm turning off the notification bell for the channel. All time shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Look,
I'm
I
a
want to hear your take on Johnston the Vikings because he's my player 3 in this class, and I know you can call me stupid later, but I love Johnston.
That's very high. But
Yeah.
listen, I think if the board breaks down this way, obviously like wide receiver and corner, I think are the two main things for the Vikings. I saw a lot of people saying like, please God, don't take a corner. I think the good news is that like if Banks is gone by 23, like he is in this exercise, then and like with the way that the receivers have gone, like I think it's pretty easily wide receiver because you have your choice between Johnston and Jordan Addison and say Flowers if you want to go that route as well. I think that ultimately what leads me to Johnston more than anyone else is that I don't necessarily think that you want a guy who is slot limited. I think Addison is pretty slot limited in the NFL. I think that Flowers is going to end up being a slot receiver in the NFL, even though he has a ton of experience playing on the outside. He's just super tiny. He's like 5'8", 180 or something. Johnston is, while he's not 6'4" like he's listed, he is 6'2" and a half, and plays like a slot receiver essentially, but from the outside, in terms of like the yards after catch ability that he gives you. Kirk Cousins doesn't have the strongest arm in the entire world, and so like if you want to create more explosives in the pass game, you need someone that's going to create yards after the catch, most likely. I think like Justin Jefferson's really good at this. Adam Thielen, before he got old, was pretty decent at this. I think, so yeah, Stephon Diggs was great at this when he was on the Vikings. So I think ultimately, like, you want a guy who you can kind of feed those intermediate routes that Kirk Cousins kind of excels at. Feed them the ball on those routes and then just kind of let them do their work after the catch. And I think that makes Johnston the best fit of the receivers that are left on the board here for the Vikings. I do think that like if someone like Smith and Jigba for whatever reason is available, or if the Vikings like trade up to get to that spot, I think that that's someone that makes more sense just because I think he's a more talented player overall. But the way that the board looks here, I think that Johnston makes absolutely the most sense for the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If I may,
No.
ahead,
No. You may not.
Like the only other need I could really think of for the Vikings here would be like a linebacker, and there aren't any good linebackers.
There's no first round
We're not
caliber
taking
linebackers.
Sanders
in
or
the draft.
There's no
or
first round
whatever.
linebacker, and Drew Sanders is probably going to move to edge in the NFL. That's just kind of how
I will
works
say,
out.
I do think Brian
That's my next
Brzee
article.
would be a play for the Vikings at 23. They have a solid
He's not on the
defensive line
board.
group, but I know I'm just talking in general. But they need high end talent. They don't have anybody. Harrison Phillips and Dean Lowry are your best defensive tackles.
What's wrong with that?
Not great.
Heck yeah.
That's better than the best 2021
but-
Chargers defensive tackle.
See,
Yeah, but
I could
guys have,
also
like Leo Mack and Joey Bosa. That helps a lot.
No, I'm talking about the year before that.
Oh.
I could hear an argument based just kind of on the same things a little bit for Jalen Hyatt here if they were feeling a little spicy. But
No.
I think it's
Just no.
when you look at how the NFL and these teams always go for speed, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see him pop up a little bit here. And if you're going off of explosiveness and the yards after the catch, and you're worried about Quentin Johnston hitting a 3-cone time that's worthy of an offensive lineman, then I think Jalen Hyatt might be there. But I think Quentin Johnston makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and also
I
met
think-
with the Vikings, or has a top 30 with the Vikings. I don't know
Hyatt
if it's
does?
already happened, but no, Johnston.
Yeah,
does.
it's happening this week.
Yeah.
So now we're on the board here with the
So-
Jaguars. Who is it? Kevin?
So yeah, it is me.
Take-
But I also
take
just want to
Bijan.
go to the Vikings pick
Take Bijan.
because I do in fact get paid to write about the Vikings sometimes.
Unfortunately.
Really?
Wow.
I had no idea, Kevin.
What? Are we just gonna go off the rails, or are you gonna Or are you going to make whatever point this is?
Make your point,
So-
and then make your pick.
The only quarterback I can see here, cornerback, is like Emmanuel Forbes, and I think taking Emmanuel Forbes at 23 is probably bad business.
Let's just kill Dantzler
Uh,
again.
No,
That's
Forbes
fair.
is actually fast. Dantzler ran like a 4.62.
Well, I mean from the
Yeah.
perspective that like he weighs like 15 pounds and he's going to get injured every season.
Very fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would take him. I like Dayan Handley. I would not take him at 23. I mean, I would personally, but I don't think an NFL team will. Now, anyways, regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars, and there's already one person who's going to hate my pick regardless of what it is. So, there's no winning
So let's
here.
just
but
take Bijan.
I'm just waiting to see the blue pop up. I'm waiting for it.
So I don't like this board for the Jaguars, but I'm going to take Darnell Wright because I think he can play both tackle spots. I think he's versatile enough where he replaces Juwan Taylor or he replaces who's their left tackle, Cam Robinson. Is that right?
Yeah, Robinson. Yeah.
Cam Robinson.
So, like, I think with this board and where this board is, they could take an offensive tackles who's got the talent, who's got the ability, who could play at either left tackle or right tackle, and that just makes a lot of sense for how this board is. I just saw JP's comment in the bottom.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we've talked a lot about Wright moving inside to guard too, and I think that worst case, like, even if you're super high on Walker Little coming in and starting at right tackle to replace Juwan Taylor and leaving Cam Robinson on the left side, you can kind of run a competition with Ben Barch and Darnell Wright at guard, and just like figure out who your best five are and run them out there at whatever positions it's going to be, and just do it that way.
I also think a right side of Brandon Sheriff and Darnell Wright absolutely kicks. I don't want to say a word that might get us in trouble. Kicks some tail in the run game. I absolutely think Doug Peterson would be all aboard that. So I think it's a great pick, Kevin. I think you passed the JP test too. I think
I also want to say, because this news is topical, he searches his own name on Twitter, which is offensive tackle one stuff to like the next level, and it's the pettiness I can respect out of my offensive lineman.
Yeah. All right, we have 7 picks left, and we have gone over an hour. Let's try and get this finished up here real quick.
No,
Giants.
Absolutely not.
The Giants need a receiver. And I'm not taking slow Isaac Bruce for them and Jordan Addison. I'm giving them an actual, like, speedy receiver. I'm giving him Zay Flowers. I like that Zay Flowers can do a little bit of everything. I think he would be a nice addition for Daniel Jones in the short, intermediate, and deep areas. And even though he's 5'9", he plays a lot bigger than that. He knows how to go up and get the ball in contested situations. He's really good at tracking the football. And he's great in the open field. He can do a little bit of everything, and I think that's what Daniel Jones needs.
You get all the yak guys, because that's all that offense is. It's just short little dinky dunks.
It can be.
Yeah, that really is all it can.
True.
So Dallas is in a weird spot here because I'm tempted by a few options. I think the way that the board is going, it kind of sounds like they're in on a guard. So I think I'm going to go with Steve Avila out of TCU. It sounds like they're wanting to keep Tyler Smith at left tackle, move Tyron to right, and keep Terrence Steele as a swing. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it kind of sounds like where we're at this point.
No Dalton Schultz replacement with every tight end on the board?
Yeah. You can
Literally
run Kevin out there and get the same vertical threat here with as Dalton Schultz. So I think I'm gonna go with Steve Avila out of TCU. I just think that it makes sense with how they're like supposedly constructing the roster. He'll slide right in there at left guard. He's a physical tone setter. You're gonna have to squirrel a little bit because PFF hates guard. There he is.
Right there. Not only that, on the TDM board, he's 105th.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Wow.
that sounds right. That's
That's insane.
I
Why
will
Avila over Osiris Torrance?
better scheme fit. I think. I think he's a little bit
Okay.
better athlete, and Torrance is kind of not for. I think he's more like, probably a little bit more gap guy. A little bit. He fits more of like a Baltimore if Baltimore was going to go with a guard, and Torrance's offseason has not been great as far as managing the weight and everything like that. So I think some teams might be a little scared off at the end there, and Dallas is pretty intimately connected with Steve Avila as of right now.
Fair enough.
I think there's also a chance Osiris Torrance falls to the second round because of the off season that AJ mentioned. Like, it's bad, and
it's
I think some
guard,
teams are going to be a little iffy.
Yeah, he's a guard.
And Avila can actually play a little bit all over, which I think is really interesting. If you want it, with how often they played musical chairs on the O line last year, I think
True.
Avila makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't necessarily buy Bijan either, just because I mean they could. It would be a Jerry Jones move, but it sounds like Mike McCarthy kind of won the battle. So we'll see. They could do any sort of thing here.
I think if Dallas takes
Bijan,
battle over Jerry Jones.
I think if Dallas takes Bijan, it's Jerry Jones, writing in the card and sending it in himself without consulting anyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which he's done before.
Speaking of Bijan,
like, it's not out of character for Jerry Jones.
Oh yeah. Like speaking of Bijan though, Buffalo Bills are up at 27. Alex.
Yeah, this is the time for Bijan. Yeah.
There you go.
I think that Bijan probably should and will eventually go higher than this. But I think that Buffalo is his floor. I think that there is absolutely no way that he's getting past 27. I do tend to be of the opinion that Buffalo's run game struggles were more a function of the offensive line not being able to run block at all, and less so that the running backs were terrible. The running backs aren't good, at the risk of upsetting Kevin, because Devin Singletary went to FAU. But Devin Singletary's fine.
Not there anymore.
He's not there anymore. He was fine. Damian Harris is also fine. James Cook was okay, I guess. He was pretty bad until the end of the season, and then he was okay. I do think that offensive line makes sense in a vacuum. I think that the way that this board falls, offensive line does not make sense. I mocked Osiris Torrance to the Bills in the one mock draft that I've written this year, and every Bills fan got mad at me. So I'm not going to do that again.
Of course I did.
At tackle, you're looking at like DeJuan Jones being the next guy, and again, like kind of similar to Torrance, it's a guy who's kind of had a up and down off season of like, looked really good at the Senior Bowl and then didn't practice the last 2 days at the Senior Bowl for what was reportedly a concussion, but might have been something else. And then, like didn't work out at Pro Day, didn't work out at the Combine. There's rumors that like he's up over like 400 pounds because he just like isn't taking it seriously. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff around DeJuan Jones. I think that he is ultimately someone that falls into the second. You're looking at someone like Matthew Bergeron, maybe, who I think is more of a second round player, but like could sneak up there, I guess. And so like if Bijan's on the board, I think that he's the Bills pick. It's pretty simple. You're like immediately like head of the committee guy in Buffalo, like, the super like just unreal talent, just happens to play running back.
All right, pick 28.
That's probably accurate.
Cincinnati Bengals, Kevin. Yep.
Yes.
So tight end's like the obvious pick here because they really need a tight end and all the tight ends are available. But I'm actually not going to take a tight end because
Oh my god,
we're
gonna have no tight ends go.
Well, like
Okay.
I really like Emmanuel Forbes. I think Emmanuel Forbes is a really good player. The weight is a concern. It's like 170 or 175, but I read something today that they think they could get him up to like 190, 185, which is still bad, but also not as bad as like 170. And I think that this tight end class is deep enough where Cincinnati could take him a little bit later in the draft, or take one a little bit later in the draft and get, even if it's like a Zach Kuntz or a Josh Wiley, like someone who could fill that role, more than waiting on cornerback and hoping that one falls and one fits, and like if there's one available, probably should just take one in the first.
Not to
All right.
dispute this report that you're talking about, but I do think that it's insane to think that Forbes can get to 195 when it took him 3 months to gain 5 pounds and not even hit 170 at
Okay,
the combine.
I
Again,
I think
like
it was
this is
185.
not, yeah, I mean, also insane. Like to think that he
If you
can like
can
Yeah,
put
get
I
on
mean,
10
weight, yeah,
pounds
like
on
it's
Forbes by the end of his rookie year, I think you're in a good spot.
yeah, sure. I think that's
I
fine.
don't necessarily agree with the adding weight, but I think he could still play at 170 and be like okay because of how fast he is. Like I think his
Yeah.
athleticism will make up for some of the weight problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more
And
just a durability concern than like anything on the
Yeah.
field necessarily.
But also, can you name who the Bengals' second quarterback is? Because I actually had to Google it. Already forgot who the name was.
it was Mike Hilton, Eli Apple were the top two guys, and I can't remember the
Awuzie.
third. There you
Yeah,
go.
The
it was
Awuzie.
And that's the thing with the
But
Bengals.
Eli
They
Apple's not on
focus
the roster right now.
The Bengals have been focusing on not having a weak link in the secondary, and I think they've done a good job.
Cam Taylor
I think
Britt.
it was Cam
right?
Taylor Britt.
Cam
Yeah.
Taylor Britt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cam Taylor Britt's sick.
Yeah. And
All
like
right.
Sure.
to your point, Kevin, with the tight ends, like the tight end would be like what the fourth, fifth option for Joe Burrow. So like how
Yeah,
how
like
much
I
of a
don't think it's
priority
necessary.
how
to
much of
take
a
one.
priority really is that in the first round over a couple of other spots?
I think they take running back over tight end if we're being brutally honest.
Well,
JP says put him on the
with
Gaston
everything
diet.
that's happening with Joe Mixon, then like yeah, probably.
Yeah, running. If Bijan is there, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right.
Alrighty, so who's got the
29
Saints?
New
It's
Orleans
Tyler.
Saints. I'm very intrigued by what the Saints can do. They
If you
did
take
lose
Hendon
Marcus
Hooker, I'm gonna leave.
Take
No,
Hendon Hooker.
I will not be mocking, like actually believing Hendon Hooker should go in the first 64 picks, but I can't do it. I just can't. And especially with them signing Derek Carr, that's at least a 2 to 3 year option based on how the contract is structured. They love to build up the trenches, and I think they go back there again, especially with Marcus Davenport not coming back, and obviously he's in Minnesota. I think they go with another really athletic, bigger edge rusher because that's kind of their archetype, Adi Tamua Adebawore, and kind of a hybrid defensive end, defensive tackle. They love their bigger guys on the edge, and I think he's a really nice fit to pair with Cameron Jordan, and you can be very multiple with those two players. Keon White was somebody I thought of as well, but Adebawore, his just insane athleticism, running a 4.49 at 280 pounds, that just seals it for me. Put him in New Orleans, let him thrive in that defense, be doing a lot of different things, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. The only thing I could see is if they go with like a defensive tackle like Mazi, just because they don't have a defensive tackle.
They
but
really don't have one.
Like if you can name if you can name 4 players on the New Orleans Saints defensive line, congrats to you. But here at the Eagles, I mentioned it's only been like trench players. I'm gonna go with the best one on the board, and Will McDonald, and give myself some more juice off the edge. I think they're gonna try and get as many like rushing the passer as they can, because I don't know how effective you can really roll out Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett. We'll see, but I think Will McDonald, just like you could just kind of develop him, let him rotate in with those guys, and again, they don't care about run defense, so what? Who cares? Who cares if he's 240?
Yeah. All right, Alex, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, the last pick in the first round, and Michael Mayer's still on the board. Are you going to make that happen?
No, because I'm going to take Kincaid instead.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
I think that push comes to shove. I think the Chiefs. I think Kincaid is a better fit for the Chiefs than Mayer is right now, at least. Because from a stretching the field perspective, you don't really have someone that does that outside of Travis Kelce the way that Tyreek did. Obviously, Kincaid is not going to replicate, the downfield production of Tyreek Hill, but it is just another weapon to kind of move down the field. Kelce is not declining, but he is 33. And I think you want someone who can fit in a little bit better. And you look at the options that Kansas City has outside of Kelce right now, and like the tight end 2 is like you have
Noah
Blake
Gray.
Bell and Noah Gray.
No, great.
Guys who are primarily blockers.
Judy Fortson, is he
and
on the
so
roster?
Jody
yeah, and
Fortson.
so Jody Fortson, yeah. I think like those guys outside of Fortson, who's a converted wide receiver but is mostly a special teamer, those guys are primarily blockers, and so I think you can hide Kincaid a little bit in that sense. You don't need to ask him to block a ton right away. I don't know that Kincaid's struggles as a blocker are necessarily about like him being bad at it versus him just not being asked to do it very much. Obviously, like he comes from FCS San Diego, where like he was just asked to catch the ball a million times a game because he was the best player. And then he went to Utah, where he was asked to catch the ball a million times a game because he was the best player. I think that there's obvious struggles in his blocking, but I think that it's primarily just like something that hasn't been repped for him a ton. I also have a couple people that I know around the Utah program that have said that the reason why Kincaid didn't work out, even though he was probably healthy enough to do it, even though like he wasn't going to put up his best numbers because of the back fracture and everything, but he was healthy enough to work out. But the people that I've talked to have said that like him and his camp are confident that he's going in the first round, and that's why he hasn't worked out. So that also is just an extra little thing that kind of makes me lean towards him over Mayer if that's, the option at 31.
So
I
let me
really
ask
like
you
that
this,
pick.
and then we'll wrap up, because I struggle with Kincaid. He barely got a second round grade for me because he has the physicality of Gumby. And being that he's 24 and he really can't block at all, like obviously you're going to the Chiefs and you're going to be doing a lot of aerial stuff, but it's not like Travis Kelce doesn't ever block. They ask him to do that somewhat frequently. Like, where are your concerns there?
My concerns there are Kincaid's only played football for like 5 or 6 years. He played 1 year of high school football, and so like yeah, he's 24. But it's kind of similar to Will McDonald actually, who didn't start playing football until he was a senior in high school. Like he doesn't have the experience as a blocker, and that's part of why I think he struggles. I definitely do think it's going to be a problem, but like I said, I think on the Chiefs in particular, you're going to a place where you have kind of 2 blocking tight ends already on the roster outside of Travis Kelce, and you can have Kelce block. And so like it's definitely gonna be an issue, but like you have 3 guys who are pretty decent to above, to above average to great blockers that he can learn from, A, and B, that can kind of hide him and give him more opportunities in the receiving game and have him basically just play converted wide receiver his first year or 2 or 3. And like, yeah, he's a little bit on the older side. And so like, it might not be ideal for like, as Kelce kind of hits the wall, as he turns like 35, 36, Kincaid's already going to be like 27, 28 or so. But I think it's still going to be something where like you get a decent few years out of him with Kelce on the roster, and then he can kind of transition into a tight end 1 role. Obviously, you're not going to find the next Travis Kelce just like throwing darts at a board. So like, I don't think it's reasonable necessarily to expect that of him in the first place.
And also, I kind of like the idea of running kind of 12 personnel with Kincaid and Kelce.
Yeah.
If Kincaid gives you 3 years of looking like Mark Andrews for like to start, I think you take that every day and twice on Sunday, especially if you've got Kelce working the intermediates and you can kind of swap them in and out. I think that's really smart.
Perfect. Dave, we haven't heard from you much today. You've been running everything behind the scenes, and we're very appreciative of that. What are your overall thoughts of the draft that we ended up doing tonight?
Other than I know you wanted Quentin Johnston.
I did not facilitate any of that.
He did. Yes, he did. He's lying.
He told us whoever had the pick, he got $25 if you pick Quentin Johnson.
I would wager a fine beverage that Jerry Jones would have selected Bijan for the Cowboys at that point in time. That other than that, it looks fine. I mean, it's all on how the board falls. You guys came about it with logic behind it as to what teams need, what they might be looking for. I appreciate that versus just taking the next guy on the board. It was a good mock draft. You guys did great.
And this is what you can get every single Saturday night during college football when we have our sicko spaces on Twitter. This is great stuff, guys. I greatly appreciate you coming on, talking about even you, Kevin, considering you can't spell.
Savor this, Kevin. This is going to be the last praise you get from Tyler for a while.
They make tools for that, Kevin.
It is.
Yeah, and you still can't.
I tried to use it, and I still can't spell. I have Grammarly downloaded. It doesn't help.
All right, gentlemen, before we get you out of here, I want to give each of you a chance to plug your stuff, starting with Alex, and then we'll go to the left.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Alex Katson, the way that it's spelled on the screen. It's just my name. I write for Chargers Wire, talking about the Chargers, kind of the sister site of Tyler's job over with the Vikings. I also am the spreadsheet guy. I am constantly harassed every day by people wanting more and more various trinkets and things out of me in that area. But I have a bunch of different databases and stuff that you guys can check out if you want to look at pro day numbers or the combine testing just in like an easier format or whatever it may be. I probably have it. And if I don't, I probably have a plan to have it in the next 3 to 6 months. So
I got a question for you, Alex. How are the Chargers going to do this year?
Better, hopefully. I think that with Kellen Moore coming in, I'm optimistic about the offense actually being functional. I have some questions about the defense just with guys coming back from injury and everything, but I think that it's going to be a solid probably 10, 11 win season, and then we'll see how the playoffs go.
Odie wanted to say hi.
Oh.
My favorite dog.
Yeah. No.
He makes an appearance just about every show. But he's kind of
the star of the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's the only reason people tune in. I'll be honest. It's all about Odie.
He's the only reason.
That's the only reason I agreed to come on was for Odie. So
yeah, same.
AJ, go ahead and plug away, my man.
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at AJ Schulte FB, same as it's spelled here on the graphic. I don't write or have anything else to plug, so I'm just gonna pass it over to Kevin because, yeah. So way to go, Kevin.
Plug JP's Twitter, AJ.
No, JP does not need it. Okay, JP doesn't need
just do a plug for JP.
JP's the only one of us who's like mildly popular, so he doesn't need any more followers.
What is it? Hold on. What is it? Let me see. It's at Acosta32 _ JP.
Hey, I want to point out that I have more followers than JP. Somehow.
You do?
Yeah, but does Paris Johnson follow you like he does Kevin?
Yeah, there you go.
Paris Johnson does follow me.
That's Kevin's whole point.
So right, I guess I'm up.
AJ, what is RPM Data?
It is the company I work for. We're a scouting agency, so like we kind of grade future prospects and present them to agents as clients later on down the road.
Gotcha.
Kevin, go ahead and plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at the Kevin Fielder because I am the only Kevin Fielder. No, I am contractually obligated to mention that I do write for Tyler at the Vikings Wire, and if I don't say that, he said I'd get fired. No, he didn't. But I also write about college football and college sports at Underdog Dynasty, and I guess I cover FAU still for Owls 24/7. And I am the converted Dolphins fan. Yeah, but I also am the converted Dolphins fan who decided to write about the Dolphins, but colder, and they live in the north in the Vikings. So I guess I only like disappointment.
You know, I'm really disappointed in the three of us guys because when the Dolphins pick came up, none of us made the joke.
I don't even think it was
Yeah.
on the thing. I think it just skipped
Yeah,
right
it
over
wasn't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of just skipped right over it. So I will make the joke now. The Dolphins didn't have a pick because Stephen Ross was too busy flirting with Tom Brady and Sean Payton and literally anyone else with 2 legs and 2 arms, because that man can't get off his own, desire to ruin the Dolphins for half a year.
That's true. All right,
on that
gentlemen,
cheery note,
I greatly appreciate you coming on. That is it for an extended episode of the Real Forno Show. We will be back later this week with Kevin and the mentioned JP Acosta talking linebackers and defensive linemen as we continue our SKOL Search series to talk about all the prospect groups in the NFL draft. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Go ahead, do all the fun things, like, subscribe, and let us know what you think of all these picks. I know there are a lot of team fans represented here tonight. Let us know what you thought. Until then, from all the guys and Dave and myself, Tyler, one thing we always say at the end of the show: SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
I'm not saying.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!